a research associate on climate change and environment at King Abdullah Petroleum Studies and Research Centre, also commonly known as KAPSARC. Dr. Al Sarihi, which news headlines caught your eye today, please?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me today. And looking at the top news here, what the first line has actually attracted my attention. Oman sets up new energy company. I think that is really an excellent step for the country, because what the new energy company is aiming to do is, to separate the finance of the oil company from the government budget. And I think looking at it from climate and the energy transition perspective, I think that's an excellent step, because it would allow to, look at different sources of finance for the new projects, including, for example, for the renewable energy. And in that way, the governments, in terms of the energy transition, they don't rely on, like the fossil fuels themselves to finance the new projects and the alternative energy projects.
Thank you. And next up is Professor Michael Modigell, Director of the Oman Hydrogen Centre. What's grabbed your attention from the list today, please?
It doesn't seem to be a miracle. So I firm's initiative to scale up green hydrogen, which is a real hot topic worldwide. So in the last 2 years, hydrogen came really in the focus of the people who are talking about energy problems and climatic problems. And when thinking about the application of hydrogen, then we have to realize that this is not an easy task to start with a small initiative of a small plant, and then to realize at the end society, community, which is depending on the hydrogen. So this is a massive change in the industrial life and in our social life as well. And it will be interesting to see how other stakeholders think about this transition process from the gray to the green society, which is essentially and important for the future, not only for the Oman, for a lot of other countries in the world as well. So we are talking about a complete new system, and this discussions like this. So I'm keen to learn something about this.
Well, I think the new state energy company from Oman, as well as hydrogen, are going to be key points that we're going to discuss today in our next session. But if I can just first, certainly not least, but last in this case, Dr. Firas A H Al-Abduwani, founder of Hussam Technology Company, also known as HSTC, what would be your top pick, please?
My top picks, if I can choose two, would be one would be the Oman rooftops, to be different, and I'll touch a little bit on that. And the other one is the consortium of 7 scaling up the green hydrogen. So for me, these two topics were extremely interesting and positive. With regards to the rooftops, what I found extremely interesting here is that this same week when this news came out, Oman has finally launched its RFP for our domestic rooftop program. And the fact that the Vietnam-Oman Investment Company has went abroad to invest in a similar scheme in Vietnam is very interesting. So we see Oman playing in both areas. We're trying to look at the decentralized solar installations in Oman itself and participating abroad. I hope that the learnings across border help Oman become a key player, build the required talents inside. The other piece of news that I really was intrigued by this consortium of 7, green hydrogen is the new oil, to be honest. We're really all as citizens of the globe looking forward to decarbonization, trying to limit the carbon emissions. And then we want to go through the learning curve. Today, we know that green hydrogen still has some time ahead of it before it can be competitive against gray hydrogen. The fact that these 7 majors have joined together to launch this catapult program, I think is fantastic. It creates opportunities, it accelerates for areas like us here in Oman and Saudi Arabia and NEOM and others where we already have some of the optimal resources and are ahead from a natural perspective. Connecting that with the capabilities from the developers and then having the midstream all come in, we can become some of the first hot zones to address the green energy or green hydrogen requirements.
Because of course, hydrogen itself isn't a new idea. It's been around for a very long time, but there have been quite a few false dawns, as it were, or false awakenings where the market looked like it would start picking up and then it's spluttered away. A little like the carbon price, there's a lot of excitement and then it splutters away, and a lot of excitement, then it splutters away, but everybody agrees that it's very important. But this really feels like a true awakening, and these sorts of coalitions with that caliber of company as well very much indicates that corporates are taking this seriously, as are governments, and then to follow with society's awareness and education about the product should start to increase as well. Moving on, let's look at Oman, which in more detail, because it's obviously had a really big week. We've already touched upon the establishment of the state energy company, Energy Development Oman, EDO. For us, we've already looked at some elements of this, but at its real fundamental heart, what does this mean for Oman, the establishment of this company? What do you think it means for Oman in 2021 in terms of accelerating its energy transition?
My first impression is that I'm curious about it. So establishing EDO is very clear. Dr. Aisha mentioned the benefits of separating the finances of EDO or PDO from the government. But one of the mandates that they clearly mentioned in EDO is renewable energy. And we have another state-owned company, which is OQ, that also has the mandate. One of its three pillars, upstream, downstream, is alternative energy. So now we have two state companies with the apparent mandate of accelerating the energy transition. So for me, the point of curiosity is it clear what areas are the two going to be working on? Is it separate stratas, or are they going to compete, which is also itself could be healthy to make sure that we have the most efficient solution. So for me, that part is still not clear. However, in general, it's positive.
Do you think we'll know about that? Sorry to interrupt. Do you think we'll know about that part next year? Do you think this time next year we will have that level of clarity? Is that how fast this is going to move? Because we know that carving out these roadmaps is not an overnight effort, especially on a national level, and especially when you're talking about cross-border integration as well, which I'd like to ask Dr. Aisha about shortly. Do you think that we will see that level of clarity this time next year?
Absolutely, because EDO is not something new. It's been on the table for 4 years. The original concept that I heard of when it first came was, at least when it came to renewables, EDO was supposed to take some of the best talents from the different industries in Oman, whether it's from PDO or the different subsidiaries of OQ before OQ got integrated, and also then from the private sector, and bring these pools of human resources and tap into the capital and also into the partnerships, international partnerships you have, to be the single entity addressing the government entity, addressing the transition. Now we have two companies, which is different because things change in the 4 years from the original concept when I first heard of it and now that it's launched. But will clarity be there? Absolutely. I mean, I don't think this would have come out with a royal degree without some clarity. And of course,
clarity, absolutely, but a roadmap, a clear roadmap of this is what we're going to be doing, on a step-by-step basis.
Absolutely.
But there seems like there's great confidence that is going to be the case. Professor Modigell, according to the 2020 production gap report, the global coal, oil and gas production would have to decline annually by 11%, 4% and 3% respectively in 2020 to 2030 to be consistent with the 1.5 degree pathway by mid-century that the world is collectively trying to push towards. Are you confident that Oman, following on from what Dr. Firas has said as well, are you confident that Oman will do enough in 2021 to be on the right track for this target by mid-century? What top 3 steps would you recommend to get it there?
To be honest, Oman has not the chance to do enough. The problem is on the table since 50 years. And not only Oman, other nations and governments did the same until now, we can say. Actually, they did only a little bit in moving the technical society from the gray to the green to avoid the greenhouse emission. Now, we observe that, let's say, the last 3 to 4 years, there is a special kind of movement within most of these societies, maybe except America, which was dominated by Trump. This is a very special subject. But in all others, it became a topic in their mind that something has to be changed massively. And then the governments are realizing that maybe we will not have the chance to meet the 2050 aim, maybe, because systems have some inertia, and it's not a matter to change from an ordinary car to electrical car. Modify, as I said before, the whole system, which involves a lot of different industry, a lot of different social systems. In principle, the whole mind of the community. Oman is regarding this aspect rather late, and I do understand, because in the past there was no need, because everything was available from the gas to the oil to the water. Now people realize that regarding the specific emission of CO2, that means emission per head of society, Oman is not at the end of the hit parade, but in the front. It's one of the 10 highest emitter in the world. It's not Russia, it's not China, it's Oman. But now people are becoming aware, and this is one of the massive problems Oman has to solve. And for this, you don't need to ask for any miracle. The ways, the technologies, the decisions which have to be done are clear, because they have already experience in other countries. And Oman has nothing more to do than just to copy the traditional available methods. Then we have the second question, which has been addressed by Dr. This is a transition to a technical society, which is related with energy carrier, which do not lead to the emission of CO2. And this is not the blue hydrogen, not the gray hydrogen, it's a green hydrogen. Oman has to be really fast to don't miss the train, which is already running. So we know that we have a plant in Dubai running, small plant, but it's running. Then we have plants in Tunisia, in Morocco. So all the people are already moving. Oman has a chance to pass the colleagues on the right side and to go ahead, but this needs to make soon decisions, then to have a clear roadmap how to move, and the roadmap have to cover, let's say, the next 30 years, which is easy to do. GUtech is working in this process, and we are involved in this, so the Hydrogen Center. So what I believe is what we are seeing actually in terms of actions, in terms of modification, maybe in 2021, we are a little bit disappointed, but I strongly believe that the change in the mind, which is necessary to come to decisions and to come to development plans, this is strongly enhancing. So I believe at the end of 2021, we know how to move the next 30 years.
Just on the hydrogen side, I'm just going to ask you all what I call a rapid fire question, because I'm really intrigued just to get an idea from each of you with a yes or no answer or a not sure answer. Yes, no, or not sure. Those are the only answers allowed on this question. And then I'd like to move on and just ask Dr. Aisha about the GCC. So the question is, can Oman have a roadmap for a hydrogen economy carved out by the end of 2021? Dr. Firas, yes or no, or not sure?
Yes.
Dr. Aisha?
Yes.
Dr. Firas? Sorry, Dr. Professor Modigell?
Yes, I said I'm convinced.
Okay, excellent. Excellent. I just wanted to get. I know you were bullish on that as well, and positive on that. I just wanted to get the view of the others as well, because that's quite a statement. There aren't very many countries out there who are necessarily on track to get a detailed roadmap out like that. And as you said, Oman is got a little bit on the back foot and has a bit of a way to go. PDO has been pushing the green agenda in its own way for a while now, and so is the ministry, but the scale of efforts perhaps just has not been enough. Dr. Aisha, another thing that was just mentioned was about the template. Oman's got a template to follow. Others have tried and tested, and there is a path there for it to kind of tread down. In terms of the wider GCC, do you think that there'll be other countries in the GCC that can follow Oman's lead with the establishment of this company? Do you think that there is a need for that, or are existing energy companies covering their bases?
Are we speaking about the energy development to Oman?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I think Oman has been proactive in terms of this initiative. Oman is leading in terms of these initiatives, in terms of, you know, separating the finance of the energy transition from actually the fossil fuel industry. And I think the other countries should also follow suit in this front, because, you know, we have been in the Gulf region depending on the fossil fuel revenues for a long time, and actually even in diversifying the economy and even in financing the energy transition. So I think this is a major step, and I think Oman is leading in this front, but the other GCC countries are doing also a lot in terms of, you know, how to facilitate the energy transition and how to also look to different financial resources in terms of financing the energy transition. You know, for example, in Saudi Arabia, the PIF is actually playing a role in, you know, financing the alternative energy resources. I know, like, there's a stake with Lucid company, which is an electric cars company. And also in the UAE, there are initiatives in terms of also looking at different financial resources. I know, like, in Dubai, Dubai has established, you know, a separate finance. I don't recall the name exactly, but then they have established a financial resources that are dedicated for financing the sustainability and environmental related projects. So I think there are initiatives out there in the region. And I think moving forward, I think what the region needs to do more of is to capitalize on those initiatives and do them in a scale and a very dedicated and clear manner, so that we can incentivize the, you know, investors having finance allocated only for renewables or the climate action. That will create an incentive for the investors to enter the market. And
do you see a lot of cross-border collaboration? I mean, we've tried it a little bit with the power with the region, didn't quite work out, and same with the natural gas ecosystem for the GCC. Do you think that a cross-border hydrogen ecosystem on knowledge, on infrastructure, on finance, do you think that that is viable as by 2025, for example? It'll take longer, obviously, than bespoke national roadmaps, but do you think that's something we should be looking out for?
Certainly. I think in terms of the energy transition, I think, so it is a new area. This is one of the things. So although maybe it's not happening at scale at the moment, but moving forward, this is something we should encourage the Gulf countries to work together on, not only at the regional level, but also at the global level. At the moment, I see that the Gulf countries are working perhaps in silos, but in the future, moving forward, I think there are a lot of opportunities to cooperate either in hydrogen or in other alternative energy resources, like, you know, the solar and the wind. Especially the Gulf region is in a process to put the electricity grid, which enhance the cooperation between the countries. And so that,
I mean, that's taken a long time to get to this point with the power grid, hasn't it? With the cross-border power grid, it's taken a very, very long time, and I'd argue there just isn't that level of timetable for hydrogen or the other renewables. Do you think there's an awareness that the speed really does have to be on?
I think the awareness is there, but I think there are issues maybe that needs to be resolved in order to speed up the cooperation between the countries, either in the electricity grid and in the hydrogen, and also in terms of building the regional transportation sector. And talking a little bit about that, that also needs to be looked at, like it shouldn't be like fueled through conventional energy resources, but there is an opportunity to fuel that with alternative energy resources like the hydrogen, the renewables. It should be like something to look at too. But I think the awareness is there. We are a little bit slow in terms of the speed, and that is something that can be improved across the region.
And that very much leads on to the next part, where it's time to ask a very, very simple question that never has a simple answer, and that is what's next. So we've obviously covered quite a few points in this, from finance to GCC to hydrogen, to so many areas, to roadmaps, national and collaborative, cross-border, and so on. So for this next part, if you could just boil your thoughts down as much as possible into a couple of points, in a few sentences, of what you expect in 2021, what we should specifically be looking out for. Professor Modigell, please may I start with you? What should we be looking out for next year?
So, as already mentioned, I expect in 21 that we are able to create a roadmap for the green development of Oman, which includes hydrogen, but other aspects as well. Then I expect that there are a couple of proposals for rather fast actions in Oman to bring the whole society closer to a green society with very simple things. So we have to modify the way we design our buildings. So spare energy with the cars, make fuel more expensive, improve public transportation. So all single steps which have the consequence that in general the emission in Oman will be reduced, and that we develop to a society which really goes carefully around with the energy resources. And I strongly believe that within the next year, we will see that a couple of these ideas, which have been realized in other countries already, will be discussed on the table, and then maybe already in 21 or in the next year, they start to realize. Consider, 4 years ago, we discussed about the problem of the high utilization of oil for the polymers. And one very simple problem is the use of plastic bags. And it took 4 years to come to a decision. Now, under the pressure, under the worldwide pressure to go around very carefully with the oil and the gas, it has been released a decision that from the next year on, plastic bags are forbidden, which is it's a very simple problem, but it's a really big problem because it demonstrates that Oman is willing to make a dramatic change in the system in general, not only in these dedicated problems. So I strongly believe that when we make the balance at the end of 21, we will see things are moving. And hopefully, Oman will be able at least to run one small hydrogen plant to demonstrate that Oman is ready to produce and utilize hydrogen in reality and not only in offices and computers.
I would hope so. I mean, Oman's got a strong track record of creative thinking and looking at different areas, and so has PDO. It just seems the scale has never quite been able to be ramped up. But the idea part of it, and the knowledge part, has always been creative and forward thinking, I think. Dr. Aisha, your thoughts, please, on next 2021. What can we expect?
Yeah, so I'm going to build up on your last point when you mentioned that there are initiatives out there in Oman and in the other Gulf countries. Yes, I mean, there are initiatives at the government level in terms of the renewable, in terms of other sustainability environmental sustainability projects. And then there are also initiatives at the national oil companies level. Like Oman has BDO has a Mir'ah 1 gigawatt Mir'ah solar project. There are carbon capture utilization.
Which just interject there, just in case anyone who's listening doesn't know, that was a huge project. That was a flagship project worldwide in terms of its innovation and its skill pushing ahead. Now, obviously, the broader solar market is rapidly advancing, but the Mirror project, when it was being developed and coming to the fore, was and still remains very innovative.
Yeah, certainly. And then also there are carbon capture utilization and storage projects also by other companies, like Aramco have one, SABIC have one, ADNOC have one. So I think the initiatives are there. There are renewable energy targets across the GCC countries. And I think what needs to happen, so I'm not going to say like, oh, we need a miracle out here. Yes, the transition process, energy transition is a process. It's not going to happen overnight. So what I would suggest that to capitalize on the existing initiatives, do them at a scale, but also at the same time seek partnerships with the leaders in the field, be it a partnership with research institutions, other oil firms who are doing also a lot in this area. For example, we have seen initiatives from global international oil companies like BP, Total, NA. They are trying to take the alternative energy in board and diversifying their portfolios. So also like there's an opportunity to cooperate with or collaborate with clean energy companies either in the region or at the international level. And also being a young researcher and from the region as well, I would say also capitalize on us, the young and the talented people from the region, enable us to have the voice in the energy transition and trust on our abilities to do the research in this area and to cooperate with other scholars either in the region or abroad.
And then that itself supports the nationalization efforts. It supports the national visions to become knowledge-based economies founded on local talent as well. So that again is just supporting not just the Paris Agreement, but also longer-term national goals. Dr. Firas, what's your crystal ball telling you, please?
All right, so I'll again touch on from where Dr. Aisha left.
You've got a hard job there because there's been quite a lot covered.
Yeah. So I will throw in the word entrepreneurship. She mentioned academia and focusing on human talent. I'll take entrepreneurship. And the way I would take it is our local Omani market needs to be unlocked further. We have seen very positive restructuring in the government. We saw this week, yesterday itself, that, for example, the water sector has now been clarified, different delegations of the policymaker, the regulations of it, and now also the public companies running it. What really needs to happen, and I really hope and envisage happening in 2021, is a serious relook at how the power sales happen in Oman. So OPWP, Oman Power and Water Procurement Company, their role. So there's a huge, in my opinion, shift that needs to be happening here. One, we have the spot market that was delayed for some time. It's coming. I believe that the spot market as it is envisaged today is not brave enough. It's not daring enough. It still is a single buyer spot market. It's still complex. I would hope that with the new hands and new talents coming on board and the new vision Oman has, that we really capitalize on unlocking the potential. We have Duqm, which by 2023, 24 will be connected to the grid, and that will really unlock it. And then we have the Sahar area where OQ has a strong presence, Sahar Free Zone and Port play a major role. The ability of allowing not just only government companies to play a role, but also private companies to participate more dynamically in the green revolution and pushing the learning curves in electricity prices further. We have an oversupply due to COVID. We take that into consideration, but a restructuring of the spot market, re-looking at how the transmission charges are done today, all of these are fundamental for Oman to re-examine in 2021 and to have a roadmap place for them to go forward. One last point, because I focus on Oman. I think what's also touching on a question you asked Dr. Aisha is that previously we might not have had a lot of cooperation for two reasons. One is because of the geopolitics between us brethren of the GCC, and I don't see that, to be honest, resolving very soon. But the other part is that we were all equally or very closely endowed in the natural resources. And therefore, there was very little need of transfer of things. So, okay, gas coming from the dolphin, and otherwise, yes. But now when we come to the production of green molecules, I think Oman and Saudi Arabia are more endowed than the rest of the GCCs in these natural resources, the coupling of solar and wind. So I believe that this time we do have perhaps a big, and if it is true, if we have a bigger unbalance in this natural resources, then our capability of delivering cheaper green molecules will be stronger and disparate between the GCC countries, and then the manufacturing who want to benefit from this, that could enable the transactions, and then that could lead to partnerships, collaborations. I think off-takers are key. 2021, I would like to see Oman sign up its first off-take for green molecules. Of course, it takes some time to develop this, but I believe OQ and perhaps EDO as well, once it's clear what they're going to do, are in prime positions to really push the envelope forward, inshallah.
I think the overall outlook for Oman next year seems very positive. And it's especially good considering the economic impact of COVID-19, and Oman's economy is retracting, not as steeply as some others certainly, but is going to contract this year, just like every other economy out there. And the energy transition price tag by the IEA has been put at around $1 trillion a year for the next 3 years to start getting on the right track. Wood Mackenzie is saying the energy transition could cost up to $40 trillion by 2050. These are big numbers, especially amid a pandemic that has triggered this recession. And obviously next year we'll start to hopefully see some economic recovery. So this is a very positive outlook. I have one rapid fire question left that I'd like to ask you again. It's yes, no, or not sure. And that is, can Oman be, we've already touched on it a bit, but I'd just like to get your final thoughts. Can Oman be on track next year to hit its Paris Agreement target? Yes, no, or not sure. Dr. Aisha?
Not sure.
Dr. Firas?
Not sure as well.
Professor Modigell?
Not sure, unfortunately, not sure.
But there were no no's, and that's, that counts. That really does count. Brilliant. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us, and for all those who joined in to listen as well, and for our speakers. Thank you. That's a wrap. And from everybody at GI, wishing you a very good weekend.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.